Now we move on to another area, another question. And this concerns this almost deification of the Qur'an. According to Muslims, as we saw earlier in the earlier videos, the Qur'an is eternal, co-eternal with God. Therefore, it cannot be criticized. It's above criticism. And because of the fact that it has no human intervention, there are no human intermediaries to either corrupt it or change it, delete it, accrete it, things like this. They say this is only reserved for the Bible. You can then understand why Muslims have taken the Quran and they've put it up on such a high pedestal that it is almost deified. You've seen this all the time. The claims they make, even on the comments that I've been reading for these videos, it seems to me over and over again that Muslims have elevated the Quran to such a height. And the higher you elevate it, the further it's going to fall. And so the questions a question that I really like to pose is, if it is above criticism, as you say, it cannot be critical, then that stands to reason why there are so many injunctions and laws against criticizing the Quran. The C-295 law, or 295C law, I've heard it said both ways in Pakistan, which stipulates that it's a capital offense if you criticize the Quran. And this was the offense of a bibi, this lady who was there supposedly at a water faucet with other villagers, and they claimed that she criticized the Quran, and that became a capital offense. Fascinating, when Salman Rushdie wrote the satanic verses, all over the world that became almost like a capital offense. They put a fatwa on his head, and the Ayatollah Khomeini stipulated that he must be killed for that. He must be eradicated. I remember Terry Jones back in March of 2011 when he burned the Quran, and he burned it in public, and all over the Muslim world there were riots. I don't know how many, 9 to 12 people lost their lives in these riots, and everybody stipulated that he must be killed. I remember even that the week after that happened, I went down to Speaker's Corner and I took a Quran and I put I pretended to say, I said, listen, if I were to burn the Quran right now, what would happen to me? And people said, we will kill you. I said, wait a minute, you will kill me for just burning the Quran here at Speaker's Corner? And then I looked and I said, is there anybody who will not kill me? And no one raised their hands. So it was even personal at that point. And I could see that there is a real sense in the Muslim world that this book is almost a deified object. It's been almost elevated to the status of God himself. Well, we already see it's co-eternal with God. That in the earlier videos, you can see that's where I remember when we would go into Muslim homes, we could not put the Quran on the ground because that would be evil thing to do. It'd dirty the Quran if it was just put on the ground. And you can see that Western especially Muslim organizations in the West, have tried to bring in this incitement to religious hatred law. I remember back in 2006, in February, they tried to bring this into Britain, and it went back and forth between Parliament and the House of Lords, and finally on the third reading in the House Parliament, it lost by one vote. It was Tony Blair's vote, and it's fascinating to me that we almost in 2006 instituted this law in Britain, which stipulated that if you criticize the Quran, it would not be a capital offense in Britain. It would be 7 years in prison, and that means I would have had to leave Britain. They would have me out within a month or two if that law had gone through, because that's what I do. I do criticize the Quran. I've been free to do so. In the 25 years I was in Britain, I did criticize the Quran. If you go look at many of my videos, you will see me criticizing either Allah or the Quran or Muhammad, and that's the whole nature of my ministry. So it is something that came that close, even in my own life, just 13 years ago. We do know that it was sent down Nazil to, and we said this in an earlier video, it was sent down Nazil to just one man. And if it's above criticism, then the first criticism we need to do is to ask that question. Everything we know about this book comes from the testimony of one man. And that testimony doesn't even come from his lifetime. That testimony comes from 240 years after his lifetime. Yet everything that Muslims are to believe comes from one man and one book. This is the book. The man is Muhammad. What if that man is wrong or was wrong? everything then comes crashing to the ground. We know that he received that in the Hira cave. That's according to tradition. And that he then received other subsequent revelations in both in Mecca and Medina for 610 to 622 in Mecca, and then from 622 to 632, the last 10 years of his life in Medina. That's what tradition tells us. So this book supposedly came to one man over a period of 22 years, 23 some say, started in the Hira cave, everything on one man. This man could not read or write. Why would God in his wisdom choose a man who could not read or write to give his final revelation to the greatest revelation, the seal of all revelation? Why in the world would God choose an illiterate man to do that? And if he didn't know how to read and write, why didn't he do so? Why didn't he learn how to read and write within the 22 to 23 years he was given to then receive this Qur'an? More than that, he had a secretary, Zayd ibn Thabit. That's what secretaries do. I thought that's really the only reason to have a secretary is to write things down for you. Why didn't Zayd ibn Thabit write it down while he was still living? These are questions, Muslims, you need to answer, because there's an awful lot of problems as we start to unpack and look on this revelation and what this means, tanzil, sent down. But also this idea of deifying the Quran, holding it up so high that we cannot criticize it, critique it. Even what I'm doing, I cannot do in any other country. I'm doing it on YouTube. Thank God we still have the freedom on YouTube to ask these questions. And I know if you Muslims, if I were in a Muslim country and I said the things I've said, even on this one video, I could be killed. It's a capital offense, what I'm doing. That's how high you've raised your Quran. My goodness, thank God we don't do that with the Bible. Listen, you can criticize this book anytime. In fact, we encourage you to criticize it. We allow you to criticize it. You have been criticizing it for over 200 years, or more than that. As long as this book has been around for a good 2,000 years, this book has been criticized and will continue to be criticized. And we do not kill you for criticizing. We do not condemn you for criticizing. We answer your questions. We take on the criticism. Biblical criticism is historical criticism. You would not have historical criticism without the Bible. You would not have redacted criticism. You would not have source criticism. You would not have literary criticisms. All these criticisms have been created because of this book. And that's why you Muslims think that it's only good for this book. No, it's good for any book that claims to be historical, which the Quran does. This book claims to be a historical book. It's got to pass every test that this book has already passed. Thank God for the Bible. We have passed that test. The Bible has passed every test. And that's why we don't need to criticize. We do not need to condemn those who criticize it. Please do criticize the Bible. Try to find anything wrong with the Bible. It's passed every criticism. Thank God also we have a revelation that we don't hold up and put up on such a high pedestal, almost deifying it. This is not a deified book. In other words, it is not God itself. It is not an eternal book. This was sent down to about 33 authors over 1,400 years. We know who wrote it. We know when they wrote it. We even give the names to most of the authors for the books they wrote. We are very clear that this is a book written by men, inspired by God, protected by God. That's why I love the Bible, and that's why I love defending it. I want to see you Muslims now defend this. You have deified this book, put it at such a high pedestal that even for us to criticize it, you say we must be killed. Folks, criticize the Bible all you want. You can destroy every Bible. You can burn every Bible and you won't have destroyed it. Because it's not the book itself. It's the words inside the book. It's the meaning of the Bible. It's what the book points to, talks about. It all talks about Jesus Christ. Points to Jesus Christ right through from Genesis all the way to Revelation. That's why you'll never destroy him, the Word of God. God bless you. It's been a good discussion. Let's continue on. This is Jay on a beautiful day here on the East Coast of the United States.